Hey everyone, Miacidae here. Welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. So, last time we kind of dealt with the death web cult that was aboard our ship. Got some nice stuff. In the previous few episodes we dealt with Uric 4. So I had the idea of let's just kind of go in a circle around here because we had to do with the astropathic station here at some point or another just to be able to contact the Valencia homeworlds and a few other places. Otherwise, I think it was, I forget his title, but it was something like the Courier. Anyway, one of our head people who was contacting us that we haven't technically met, he started contacting us once we started flying. Something on this station is blocking him from contacting other worlds. So just because it's somewhat close, and if I start going to Rykad Minoris, then around that way, it's gonna be farther away. I'm just gonna go to it now, and then we can deal with other things, and that's gonna be the goal. So let's see what happens. So the astropathic station is dead ahead of the voidship. It's motionless. There is lifeless silence across its Vox frequencies. Its lights are out. Even those who have no warp sensitivity can feel the presence of death. It is here, lurking in the shadows. All of this makes readings of reports of ship's astropaths, who claim to be hearing an incessant ghostly howl emanating from the station, all the more disturbing. Contacted by Vox, the station isn't responding. Kind of thought of that. So to deploy a scout team, the enforcers offer their prayers and proceeded to enter the uncanny station. What they saw was monstrous astropaths upon the thrones, not quite here, not quite now, smudged, as if it were across time. Servants reliving their horrible deaths again and again, only to be reborn out of the ashes and blood into the agony a moment later. The warp manifested itself here, twisting the very nature of existence. The main hull was covered in a crust of psychic ice. A green-robed, blind old man sat motionless upon a tall throne. He was quite literally embedded into the ice, and yet he was alive and screaming. So lore warp, Zachary Weiss was the guy, I think, that wanted to do this. Send Zachary Weiss to the station with a squad of bodyguards. Quartermaster Weiss boarded the station in person and proceeded to the Quarter's hall. He stood silently for hours in front of a man frozen in ice and held a telepathic conversation with him. Denial of nightmares. If worn by a psyker, the wearer gains immunity to the horrors of the warp effect. That'll be very handy. Okay, we just got that. Then Master Weiss offers a prayer to the God Emperor. The unfortunate man passed away. Upon returning to the ship, Weiss reverently presented the Lord Captain with a grim trophy, the late Courier Master's amulet, taken from his frozen body after death. The psychic shriek carrying across the Imperium has been silenced, but this brought the crew no relief. The chilling realization came to the astropaths when they discovered that the cry was making a distant sound, one even more terrifying and surreal. It was the melody of the cataclysm born from the warp storm of titanic power, so intense that the entire expanse must be able to hear it. It muffles astropaths' messages and crawls into the psychers' minds, evoking everywhere the same image: a dark, gaping, beastly mouth cleaving the universe in two. Now the mad Courier Master has finally stopped screaming. The song of the Imperium has reached the Rogue Trader's voidship 2. So can we explore the station? A brief and chilling chronicle of the station's doom was found in the scribe's records. A warp disturbance of monstrous proportion wipe out half the Courier at once, turning the astropaths into living portals through which the torrents of the Imperium energy poured out. So if I get rid of that, that probably goes away. Those who lasted longer bellowed and howled about a black rift that split the universe into fore and after, a darkness that would devour the astromancer's light, so burn it. Void torpedoes shattered the fragile station. One can only hope that the unfortunate souls captured by the warp have perished along with their home. So now that's dealt with. Maybe they can talk to home now, and that's gone, and I got a nice little thing, which I think I'm gonna put on Idira here, because Horrors from the Warp is now gone. And also, medkit while I'm thinking about it. And then let's go to Rykad Minor. I thought that would take longer. Vox Master Vidgus. Lord Captain, I'm sorry to disturb you. Every time I try to go to Minor, more stuff happens. Vidgus pauses as if listening to something. It's pandemonium outside the bridge gate. One of the officers seems to be demanding an audience with you in person. I think I hear Master Wearison's voice. In any case, I wanted to warn you in advance. Okay, who wants to see me? Like, this is the third or fourth time I've been interrupted trying to go to Rykad Minor. This better be good. I'm getting annoyed. Hey, I'm not sitting on my chair. The everyday sounds of the bridge are disrupted by the voice raised in anger. Abelard, voice loudest of all. This is not conduct of an officer. These are the antics of a highborn brat out in a lark. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. The young woman standing before Abelard strives with all her might to not quail under the onslaught of her superior's anger. She falters, but then manages to look him in the eye and say, I apologize, sir, but I must speak to the Lord Captain. Very well, Lieutenant. You may address the Lord Captain, not least because I see you have already seen fit to disturb him. Your unauthorized appearance on the bridge and display of belligerence towards a higher-ranking officer will be logged in your personal file without delay. Because that matters. It will be logged in your file. Lord Captain, Lieutenant Arvilla Vent, requesting permission to speak. You already spoke, so that permission was already revoked. On a matter of extreme importance and urgency. You may speak, but I want to hear a report, not a shouting match. Having two officers bicker? No. So one person, not two. I'm sorry, Lord Captain. I thought in all the drastic times called for drastic measures. This matter cannot wait any minute now. An assault unit will be dispatched to the lower decks on orders to crush the worker strike by any means necessary. But I am convinced that this step is unwarranted and that the crisis itself was provoked by the actions of one of the senior officers. Vent is almost trembling with tension as she delivers her speech, her face extremely pale. Abelard, in no hurry to intervene, lets out spectacle huff. He glances at Sowerback, who is standing not far from him, but she maintains a stony expression. Wait, I thought Sowerback was Argenta, and this is not Argenta. Anyway, Lord Cap, I urge you to investigate the actions of the Seneschal Werserian and intervene in what's happening on the lower decks, because very soon we have a mutiny or a massacre on our hands. Vent reels off the last word as though she knows them by heart. She has clearly been preparing to say them for some time. When she is finished, she casts an anxious glance at Abelard, then you. There's an insurrection in the making aboard my ship, and no one has informed me? I would not deem it a problem worthy of a rogue trader's attention. The lower decks, as it so happens, are in revolt. 30-some years ago, we even had a revolutionary leader rise up who dared to establish workers' rules across the entire ship. It took a month to restore order, but even 8 years later, we were still battling rumors that the hero survived his execution and was on the verge of gathering people to fight up against tyranny once more. Needless to say, the rumors were baseless. As for the current situation, we have sufficient enforcers to deal with it. But on this ship, the word of the Lord Captain carries more weight than a salvo of 100 bolters. I'm sure that if the rogue trader went to address the malcontents directly, he will quell the unrest. I dread to think what problem you would disturb the rogue trader with next. Perhaps you would ask the rogue trader to break up brawls in the mess room. I have already given you the means to resolve this problem. You simply need to use them. If I may, your lordship, sending a hit squad to crush a rebellion is the means of ignoring the problem, not solving this. Okay, how did this start? The situation could boil over any minute, so I'll give you the condensed version. It all began when enforcers found a cultist amulet on the body of someone who had been killed in a drunken brawl. We reported it up the chain immediately, arranged for a cleansing rite to be performed, and opened an investigation. No heretics have been found alive, but the search has brought tension between enforcers and workers to a head. Okay, so where does the Seneschal come into this? I shall explain. I beg you to hurry. Time is running out. I will not hurry. Since my competence is under scrutiny, I shall speak for as long as I see fit. There is an established order to the way things are done on this ship, and one of the pillars of that system is the rogue trader's attention is not distracted by trivial matters. It is the Seneschal's rule to ensure that. I have always handled the internal problems myself, so of course, when I receive information about cultists hiding on the lower decks, I took matters in hand. So long as I live, not one of the vermin who murdered Theodore von Valentius will find refuge on her ship. You were far too heavy-handed, Seneschal. Oh, so he's Seneschal Werserian. Arrests, interrogations, mass punishments for entire sectors. It has driven people to the brink. Now, There's a strike on the lower decks, which I was just at, by the way. In Depot 4, to be precise, 3 worker clans are involved, but many more are passively supporting them. The situation could degenerate into an all-out insurrection, but when I reported my concerns, the only response I received was an order to dispatch an assault unit and crush the strike with maximum force. Okay, what is Depot 4? Depot 4 is one of the poorest sectors on the lower deck. It is home to one of the clan's general laborers. They are not as valuable to the ship as the families who have served its specialized systems for generations. They are easily replaceable, and one which now more besides giving succor to cultists and minions of the archenemy. It's not what I wanted to hear, I just wanted to know what they did. Depot 4 is poor and troubled, but at worst that means drunken fights and illegal rotgut brewing. We have handled the workers of Depot 4 in the past. We would have done so again if the crackdown on 4 hadn't been so harsh. And another important point to bear in mind, the problem is not limited to this sector. It is located on one of the most populated lower decks, and everything that has happened there is knock-on effect in all the neighboring sectors. Okay, Master at Arms, the ship's enforcers report to you, and yet you seem hesitant to provide your own perspective. Lord Captain, unlike Lieutenant Vent, I respect chain of command and realize that it is not within my right to challenge my superiors. I think this is actually female, but that is Sourback, okay. That being said, while I entirely share Master Warenson's opinion on what Depot 4 deserves, I must note that this insubordination is a direct consequence of what practices he himself has introduced, so she does kind of agree here. Mr. Sourback, I see you have decided to follow the lieutenant's example. After all, such behavior does you no credit. Okay, arguing guys, no. I see. Evidently my officers are anything but a shining example of unity and adherence today, and I have only myself to blame, I suppose. Alebard, what do you have to say? I see no need to add anything. I acted within the remit of my authority. I guided exclusively by the best interests of your protectorate and your personal safety. If you wish to confirm my actions for yourself, I have no objections. For my part, I urge the Lord Captain to go down to the lower decks, stop the assault unit, and speak directly to the people. You will see that they are not lying or harboring heretics. That way, you will stop the uprising before it begins. Okay. Personally, I think you're all idiots. If there's a potential for uprising, I should have been notified, no matter how small. Alebard was technically acting within his rights, but way too heavy-handed. Anyone here could have informed me while still going through the chain of command. These are things I would personally like to know. So can we change this? Anyone in this chain of command could have just gone, hey, rogue trader, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people potentially about to get very mad, about to revolt. So yes, he was acting within his authority, but I'm going to verify the soundness of his decision. Throne preserve you, Lord Captain. I thank you for your support. Alebard grits his teeth slightly, an enterprise bordering on the sophomoric, but please yourself, Lord Captain. However, I categorically insist that I escort you. Lord Captain, I regret that the enforcers were unable to handle the situation, which then led to you and the Seneschal's involvement. I consider it my duty to go to Depot 4 myself and see to the expedient resolution of this incident. I was really hoping that she would join me here. Oh, that's just the cannot be affected by nightmares. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Everyone's coming. Now what I'm interested in here is if I get the extra party member. No, I do not. Lower deck rabble.
The world.
Can I please move? No. Hey, it's Wersarian. Take that, scum! Look who it is. It's all his fault. All of it. So they just throw poisonous scoop at me? Alebard reflexively wipes the sweat from his brow in a startlingly human gesture, and a telling one, a rare moment where he allows his aged wariness to show through his armor-like veneer of self-assurance. The lower decks are a source of endless problems. Sometimes I dearly regret that we cannot replace all the locals with servitors. Did you hear? They were shouting your name. Of course they were. The organization of the daily routine life of a ship rests upon my shoulders. Mountain of challenges and problems for which I endeavor to insulate you, Lord Captain. The situation of the lower deck has been a cause for concern, and I have intervened personally on more than one occasion. That must be why they remember me. They do not know your face. To them you are akin to a creature of legend. One who has stood on the steps of the Golden Throne, no less. Whereas I am the man whose name is attached to every ordered docking rations, or lowering a bay's heating. Well, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's keep moving. Do I really want to be messing with valves? I don't think so. What's in the door? Water Rabble. Greeting, your graces. Hi, guys. How you doing? Nothing illegal in here, right? Machine right set. Provides additional opportunity to call up machine spirit. Yeah, we were taking that. I may need that. Okay, so just out of curiosity, what do the valves do?
Embrace true power.
I might need to use the valves later. Gotcha. Because I can't really interact with them right now, it looks like.
I still do not see our purpose in coming here.
Well, I don't recognize you. Someone just bowed to me with a mohawk. Oh, there's Vent. The sound of a heated discussion reverberate through the ship's bays. Lieutenant Vent of the ship's enforcers is bearing a path of her superior, Master Arms Jocasta Sourback, who has arrived clad in armor. Judging by their expressions and tone, standoff has dragged on for some time and already reached a boiling point. Lieutenant Vent, my patience is wearing thin. I have given you an order, now get out of my way. I cannot comply with that, ma'am. This is my deck and my sector. So long as this area remains under Lord Captain's special oversight, no action can be taken without my express permission. There are only 3 people who are authorized to make me stand down. First officer, the rogue trader, and Emperor himself. So not all my lessons fall on deaf ears. Alebard mutters in a crabby approval. He does not clarify whether he meant Vent, Sourback, or both. Your lordship. And what's the situation? Your lordship, my people have locked down the bay where the strikers are, including their leaders. We have the situation under control as long as resources flow. Under control? Lieutenant, I came here to lead the investigation unit, and what do I see? The rebel is on the verge of mutiny. There is nothing to investigate. It simply calls for immediate repressions and firing squads, and you, Vent, are a step away from facing charges yourself. I want to speak with them. Alebard's mouth twists, but he restrains himself and says nothing. Right you are, Lord Captain. Allow me to wish you good luck. Where are they? Down here, I'm assuming? Greetings, your grace? A dozen pairs of eyes stare apprehensively at you. The people before you are typical inhabitants of the lower decks. You take in their simple clothing, crude weapons, so they do have weapons, and the faces that display varying levels of mutation from the barely discernible to the strange to the outright grotesque. We won't stand for it anymore. Our children are freezing. We've done nothing wrong. The enforcers have tormented us enough. Rivet. So that's one of their leaders, I'm assuming. A whisper passes through the crowd, and you detect a mixture of fear and astonishment, and joy in their reactions. Finally, 3 people break away from a crowd, an elderly woman and 2 men. These must be their leaders. They bow clumsily before you. But Lord Captain, you have come down to us. Tell me what's troubling you. Why are you striking? Striking? That's news to us, your lordship, says a tall, thin man in worker's garb. All we're doing is asking questions, we think. Okay. So what are these questions? Shut up, Rivet. Here's the deal, your lordship. Your enforcers, they're all over us down here. They say they're looking for cultists. One wrong word, and they're reaching for their batons. If they want to punish someone, they turn off the heating for whole bays for a week at a time, so we get sick and freeze. In my clan, 2 little ones died from inflammation in their lungs because of those enforcers. The woman spits on the floor and rubs at the spittle with the toe of her worn-out shoe. Argenta does not interrupt the workers, but you see the sadness well in her eyes when the children's deaths are mentioned. She quietly whispers a requiem in prayer and makes a sign over herself. Stagger. It's all true. Vent is the only enforcer officer who stood up for us. It's clear as day who had a mother from the lower decks and who grew up amidships and has had no fellow feeling towards us. Your lordship, we're no villains here. We're honest workers, your servants. We've plotted no disorder. We went on strike openly, and now we've got guns pointed at us. All we're doing is asking to be allowed to work in peace without being harassed. There's a lot to unpack here. I do think they need better situations, but I do want to talk about the cultist amulet, so let's do that. The persecution started of nothing. You see, I was told one of you was found in possession of a cultist amulet, and that there are heretics hiding here. That's just what I was told. A cultist amulet? What is that? The giga they found on the dead drunkard? If that was something evil or forbidden, we sure didn't know. The enforcers just said they were looking for heretics among us, and anyone obstructing their investigation would be punished. But how could we know there were heretics here? We know our people. There have been no new faces around. Okay. Definitely not. And if there were, we'd be the first to report it. And for this amulet, or whatever it is, they took it off a dead body. There are no cultists still breathing in our sector, that's for sure. But when that fight broke out, some enterprising folks looted the bodies. The boots they came back with, nobody's ever tread those decks in boots so fine, I can tell you that. Seems to me these cultists have better commanders than us. Oh yeah, those boots were really fine. And there was no harm in taking them, right? As for that amulet, it must have been pocketed by someone who didn't know any better. We didn't need any amulets around here. All the worship the Emperor. We all worship the Emperor. And when we're working, we bow down before the machine spirits, large and small transformers, and the servo motor. We all, the same way my grandfather was taught 100 years ago by a tech priest who came calling. Believe us, your lordship, we are people of faith. Naive children, weren't you taught from an early age about the dangers of the Arch Enemy's creations? Weren't you warned that any unfamiliar object could be one of them? We were told, Holy Sister, but it was long ago. Last time we saw a confessor in our sector, it was just after I had my 3rd little one. That is regrettable, but you cannot lay the burden of leading a righteous life on the shoulders of holy fathers. Who will you blame when the beasts crawl out of those amulets you stole from the heretics? The Holy Father was not there, the scavenger who brought the evil down on himself or his neighbors. Okay. Alebard, anything to add? No. What changes do you... Yeah, no, Alebard. What anything to add? I authorized the use of all necessary measures to locate the Chaos Worshippers hiding in the sector. The specific steps to be taken by the officers were not reported to me. Nevertheless, I am certain that their actions were justified. The cultists are no drunken Steve-doers. They are an enemy and threat to the ship. Neutralizing them demands decisive action. Sarback, was it really necessary to torture the people with cold? The rabble only understand one language, Lord Captain, that of violence. Per regulations, should the laborers persist in their unwillingness to cooperate, the next step is limiting air supply and cutting off water, which is almost certain to restore order. Peasants can grumble all they want, but in the end they are the source of their own misery. All they have to do is bow their heads and fall in line. The need for punitive measures will disappear. That is no. Okay, what changes do you want? What do you look at that? What do you look at that? The exalted Lord Captain himself is asking us Bilgerats what we want. Well, here's what. We want you to rein in your enforcers, to quit turning off the heat, and to stop battering everything that moves. No, that's not it. We want the enforcers gone from here, and we want to be armed. Give us arms, and we will govern ourselves. We'll defend ourselves from these cultists. We'll defend ourselves if these cultists do show their face. I've been a leader of my clan for 20 years now. Getting rid of these club-wielding thugs can only improve things around here. You've gone too far, old man. You'll never let the maggots on the lower decks live without the enforcers breathing down their necks. They'll probably insist on enforcers on the upper decks too. As for weapons, what do we need them for? Before the first day's out, we'll have someone shooting their neighbor out for stupidity or drunkenness. We don't need that. If the enforcers stop hassling us, that'll be enough. In return, we'll find the scavengers who robbed the cultist bodies. We'll talk to them, one of the lower deck to another. If there are any more of these amulets about, we'll hand them over to the enforcers ourselves. You speak for yourself and your clan, and I'll speak for me and mine. I don't want empty gestures, I want real change. They'll promise us the world now, but as soon as the Anointed One turns his back, these brutes will be on us even harder than before, all because we dared to speak out. The tall worker's eyes dart between the two arguing leaders. Every few seconds he opens his mouth as if planning to agree, but each time he falls silent, simply making a few vague noises of approval. I like the coercion one. Spreading anarchy on the ship is the first step towards embracing chaos. Putting weapon in untrained hands would be even worse. Because I do agree with that drunkenness part or the stupidness. I don't want them shooting their neighbors, especially just for being stupid or being untrained. What's more, the enforcers are needed to maintain this oversight and order. What happens when a brawl gets out of hand? It's kind of like police officers. However, we'll be more strict with what the enforcers can do. Withdraw those demands and we will consider the rest. Coercion's test succeeded. The tall worker they call Rivet shrugs and casts a sidelong look at the woman. Old man, listen. The Lord Captain himself has come down to us and is offering concessions. I don't know a single person in the whole of Depot 4 that's ever stood next to the rogue trader, let alone talked to them. Back down. Now is not the time for you to be a stubborn old crone. I mean, yeah, this is like an everyday person talking to, like, I mean, I don't even think this is a comparison. I was going to say talking to the president, and then let alone, like, going, hey, I want this. Can you make this deal for me? But no, it's probably even a bigger proportion than that. Listen to us, old man. The three clans of Depot 4 ought to act as one. We've made our minds up. It's your turn to decide. Don't ask them to disband the enforcers or give us weapons. We don't need any of that. You two are ganging up on me, is that it? So brave you are against an old woman, but I'll shut up, I will indeed. I won't go against 2 clan leaders on my own, but if you want to make peace with the enforcers, make your peace. That's great. Just fantastic. Lord Captain, we're all agreed. Thoughts, Blood? The story about going scavenging for boots and accidentally picking up a heretical amulet doesn't convince me. These people were moments away from rebelling and possibly becoming minions of the archenemy. We must not give them what they want, even if they did acquire something innocently, purely out of their own stupidity. That does not mean they are tainted with corruption. What begins with petty thievery can turn into a far graver problem. I have seen it before. His face turns dark momentarily. In my second war, there was a sergeant in the Imperial Guard. So they are Imperial Guard! I called it. Okay. In my second war, there was a sergeant in the Imperial Guard regiment that was stationed nearby. The sergeant took an ordinary pocket knife from the body of a heretic, and his whole unit lost their lives for it. When they finally managed to break the barracks, they found not a single survivor, only the pocket knife, which had grown through all the rows of beds, the metal-choking vine. So when it comes to scavengers, malcontents, strikers, or whatever they'll turn to next, my verdict is simple. Give them no quarter. I think that was a bit of a unique situation, but I understand. Master at Arms. Give the rabble a grox, and they will take an agri-world, Lord Captain. They only understand brute force and will interpret any concession as a sign of weakness. Giving them weapons and recalling the enforcers would be folly, but it would only be a matter of time before we have full-scale mutiny on our hands. I think you're overreacting. Then it's decided that I expect you to assist in locating any remaining amulets or weapons left by the cultists. And if there is another problem, I want to be notified, or things drastically go downhill from here. Do you understand? Talk to the Seneschal and calm our surroundings is my next quest. Your lordship, thank you. You have not abandoned us in the lower decks. You came in yourself and settled everything. I will tell my grandchildren about this. Removed cargo, fuel, and possession, and provisions. So I guess there was some use for that. Okay. Of course, your lordship, we'll root out any nasty business faster than the enforcers, and we'll leave no stone unturned. I'm hoping that you're not going to stab me in the back over this, because there will be problems later if you do. Alebard is not happy about that. Okay, can we go back up now? I think it was over here. Oh yeah, Abe. I have an urgent matter to discuss with the Lord Captain. Please give us a moment. Stopping unexpectedly, Lord Alebard imperiously dismisses the unit to stand at a distance and addresses your other companions. Alebard looks at you, his vestiges of restraint vanish. Well, are you pleased with your investigation? You kowtowed the disloyal rabble. You believed their lies and showed them leniency. Next time the ship is attacked by cultists, that rabble will welcome them with open arms and allow them to wreak whatever havoc they like, because they see you as a weak leader. Is that how you see your future at the helm of the Von Valencius Protectorate? Now, I want to point this out, Alebard. You said they were easily replaceable, but we're already down many people that we have to replace. So how many bodies would we have to replace on top of the ones that you were about to shoot down? We're already going to a world to try to recover working force on top of other things. It's called problem solving. Also, if those enforcers get too trigger happy and too brutal, there's not really coming back on that. Let's talk about your role in this instead. You allowed it to happen, and your actions practically guaranteed it would. I would have handled the situation myself had you not decided to intervene. Remember, Lord Captain Theodora, do you think she ever once slipped foot in the lower decks? No, she did not. Such matters were left to myself and the junior officers while she dedicated herself to the grand design of our protectorate, as any true strategist and the rogue trader ought. There are some spicy answers here. Maybe if Theodora had spent more time on trifling matters, she wouldn't have wound up dead, because there's a few things to that. She trusted someone, or technically she didn't trust him anymore, but she trusted someone, and there's a lot of malcontents on her deck, because he got into their heads. And if they like me more than whoever's trying to get into their heads, I'm gonna have less people mutinying on me. So I won't repeat her mistake. Alebard looks at me, stunned, and exhales loudly. Then he curtly nods. I commend your decisiveness, but I am uncomfortable introducing new protocols in midst of a crisis. Then let's fix the crisis, and then slowly introduce the protocols, or fix the worst of the protocols while in the crisis, and then go from there, buddy. And while standing straight at attention, I lost my temper, Lord Captain, and I believe I ought to explain myself. The prosperity of the Von Valencius Protectorate is not just an empty phrase to me. I left the Imperial Navy for the chance to see it flourish. It was the most momentous decision of my life. I did it because I saw in Lord Captain Theodora's deeds in a sign of true greatness. Rogue traders do not simply forge new routes and capture worlds, they create order out of anarchy. Is that what I was not doing right there? That creative impulse was entirely lacking during my life in the military. So I left everything behind I had known, everything my family had known. I'd come from a long line of officers, and I had embarked upon this incredibly reckless adventure. Lord Captain Theodora entrusted me with all the concerns she had no time for. She would go off on her flagship for long periods to distant frontiers, scouting voyages, and the advancement of the entire protectorate rested on my shoulders, and then suddenly everything that had been built over years began to quake, rattling like a flimsy hanger on a seismic activity world. One of the senior officers betrayed us all, the rogue trader was killed, and then who knows what is happening on the planets. I tell you this honestly without fear of appearing weak. All this has come as a grievous blow to me. I am not panicking or grieving because I cannot allow myself to panic or grieve. I am duty-bound to aid the new rogue trader, to aid you, to find footing as quickly as possible, and to do that I must insulate you from the problems that in the past have been dealt with by tried and tested procedures set out in the ship's regulations, procedures that were established long ago and have functioned smoothly for decades, cannot suddenly be deemed as excess to requirements. Oh, I have words for this. I really wish I could do combinations of some of this stuff, but things do somewhat need to change here. You know, this isn't wrong. Alebard, buddy, I understand what you're trying to do, and to some extent it's working. But as a rogue trader, I'm essentially going to say two, but this is how I would say it. But as a rogue trader, I need to make decisions. I don't need to be led to decisions. Theodora is gone, and we have new decisions to make. I think that's the least harsh way I would be able to put it. I don't necessarily like how it's put. So yeah, I understand. I don't like you need to learn how to respect me as your Lord Captain and Rogue Trader, and start living in a world where Theodora is gone and you and I have new decisions to make. Alebard solemnly inclines his head. Yes, Lord Captain. After a moment's silence, he adds, looking at you with interest, your resolve is admirable and demonstrates strong leadership. I shall remember this moment should my old habits begin to creep in. And now please let us leave the lower decks. If the rogue trader desires to stretch his legs, there are far more suitable places. I agree with that. Let's go. I was expecting like a firefight or something in that area. Okay, so now can we get to Rykad Minoris, please? That took a lot longer than I expected. There was a lot of reading. Jeez! I didn't even click on the planet. Oh, I'm in her, I guess it's my room now. As the ship makes its way through the star system, a strange fatigue falls over you. Your eyelids grow heavy and the quill you have been using to draw up yet another order falls from your hand. Oh, what's all this? You raise your head with a start. Someone else is here in your study. You stand up and stare at a dozen upon dozen of corpses surrounding you. Among their number, you recognize disconfigured and bloodied faces of those who have died on the ship's bridge and those you have met in your previous life. How is this possible? Where are the enforcers posted to stand guard? It matters not. You are alone against a horde of heretics risen from the darkness to take your life. Well, I got up quick. As of its own accord, the shard lying on the edge of the desk, the sole remnant of Conrad's weapon, slips into your hand. The metal is searing cold. The dead sway side to side, closing in around you in a nightmarishly slowing advance. Step back or else. The dead draw closer and closer, and your fingers involuntarily tighten around the shard. The sharp edge cutting into your palm. Oh, why did you grab it like that? And they mostly disappeared? Most of them have. An unbearably bright light floods everything around and you find yourself surrounded by groveling minions. Your body shivering in your mere presence, your hand no longer holds a pitiful shard, but a magnificent and intricate weapon. A skillfully crafted sword with a strange and unnerving proportions, curved design, and an unusual hilt, with an image of a closed eye. The eye opens wide, revealing a gaze so ancient and dark it steals your breath away. You have felt this gaze before there on the bridge, and the voice that appears in your mind only confirms the guess. The tapestry is woven. The tapestry is woven. The path is chosen. Accept your fate. Champion. Oh, it's a demon blade, huh? Or some kind of an intelligent weapon. I am your master, not the servant. Remember that. You feel the sword's immense weight pull you down. You resist for a while, but you resist its will for a moment longer before collapsing to the ground to the sound of an ominous laughter. The strain is such that you fear your back could break at any moment. Fog. The first dawn is hereby woven into the tapestry of your fate. Seek the second dawn in the hands of she who rises above its future dominion. The former aspirant fell, and thus the new one will become the chosen of the weaver of destinies. Make mortals serve you as their god and become the vessel of the edge. So we get interesting. Wondering if I get two of them or if I just add to this one. I also don't really want the sword, but okay. You awaken from the vision kneeling next to your desk, clothes drenched in sweat and a sour taste on your tongue. Your head is ringing and you struggle to recall those faces and the image of the sword in your hand. Only a deep cut in your palm and the bloodied shard lying on the floor remind you of what just transpired. I'm not really dogmatic, so I'm not getting rid of the shard. A foreign presence rises up from the deepest, darkest recesses of your mind. The cut on your hand burns like acid, and alien consciousness in your head greets the pain with a discordant wave of barely intelligible voices. See, my thing here is if I get rid of the shard, someone else might take it, so we're picking it up. I don't really care about that, but we'll see what happens. You reach your shaking hand to take a shard, now slippery with your blood. You wipe its metallic surface and stash your treasure under your clothes, next to your heart and soul forever seared by the great power of the warp. +3 heretic. Lovely. So, out of curiosity, now it's still just a blade shard. It's not a weapon yet. I was kind of curious about that part. Nothing else in here, yeah? No, I have to go this way to get out. They fixed this place up good. What's in the vault? Well, I can just stash stuff in here. Cool. Good to know for the future. Now can I please get the camera stuff right? Now we can go to the bridge. Gotcha. Okay. So, I'm gonna go to Rykad Minoris in the next episode, finally, if it lets me go there. I've been trying for a few episodes and then it just keeps like, hey, something new happened. Hey, something new happened. Hey, something new happened. So that's gonna be my goal, is to just keep trying to whittle my way there, and hopefully something finally lets me get there. And we'll see what happens. I know another kind of like story-based episode with not much happening, but kind of the type of game it is, there's going to be a lot of story, then something happens, a lot of story, then stuff happens, I'm assuming. So I'll see how short this one actually gets, but we'll see. Because editing is going to whittle this down. Right now it's about at an hour though, so that'll be this time. Like I said, next time going to Rykad Minoris, if we can. I'm really bad with names, if you can't tell. Where there are like 3 different quests, so I'm assuming there's a lot to do here, and we won't be leaving for a hot minute, but we'll see. And yeah, just go from there. So that'll be it for this time. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, and otherwise, as always, wish you all well. I will see you next time, and please have a good one.